All right, obviously I'm really late to the party on this one. When I'm doing a review, I don't watch any of the other reviews about that object until my video is released. I'm gonna predict that, I'll say, every single reviewer that looked at this keyboard said that it is a complete game changer for the entry-level space. You can let me know in the comments if I'm right or not. Evidently allergic to making money, Qwertykeys is a new company launching with this board, the QK65. It's a sister company to Owlab, makers of some serious boards like the Jelly Epoch and the Mr. Suit. They're quick to tell you that they borrow a lot in terms of design and knowledge from Owlab, but that one shouldn't expect the QK boards to be on par finish-wise with the Owlab stuff. I don't own an Owlab board, so I can't speak to that. But what I will say is where they decided to cut corners here and where they decided to spend some money on this design is brilliant. And speaking of brilliant, I'm just kidding. What we've got here is a fairly basic or minimal gasket mount 65 with a blocker. It's got a typing angle of 7.5 degrees and a front height of 19.5 millimeters. This copy is the black with the chroma lower. Everybody wants to know if this looks as good in person as it does in the renders or the photos. Yes, it looks sick, and it color flips depending on how the light hits it. It's not glossy or mirror finish like so many of the high-end lowers, so this isn't going to scuff or scratch nearly as easily. It feels durable, industrial. You'll notice these 4 little screws and the holes alongside them. This is where the case feet go, and they don't stick on. They've got these little nubs that go inside the holes, which means you can take them on and off whenever you want, and it means that fully assembled, there's no visible hardware. That's a hallmark of a high-end board. The anodizing on the top is flawless. It does fingerprint, which I'm not crazy about, but the quality is there. It feels hefty. Fully built, it weighs in at just under 2 kilos, or if you're an American, about 4 handguns. That's because this lower is actually a stainless steel weight. Weights on keyboards are usually made from brass or copper. It's like a bar design, decorative. It's another hallmark of a high-end board. You see where I'm going with this. First impression of this board, it's a $350 board with a $150 price tag. Removing this weight, you start to see how they're pulling this off. The underside of the weight is not treated. This chroma one still happens to look cool inside, but it's factory rough, not in the same remote ballpark as the exterior visible area. The weight itself is heavier than the rest of the aluminum assembly. We also see that the true lower chassis of the board is a thin piece of what looks and feels like casted aluminum, which as I understand it is much cheaper than milled. So it's really simple. They spent money on the stuff you will actually see and feel on the board and saved money on the stuff that you won't. Smart. The kit includes the case and weight, a really decent carry bag, a thick wedge silicone dampener and pour-on case foam, 2 types of gaskets, the little socks and the larger jackets, a USB-C coiled cable, which is meh, but still included, a little tri-head screwdriver, and a set of Owlab stabilizers, which go for about $20 as a standalone item, and they're simply included here. I've got both PCBs in-house today. Neither one has a daughter board, and both have some unique flex cuts. It's important to note that hot swap is ANSI only, with the only config option being stepped caps lock, but solder gives you plenty of layout options, including ISO. I'm using hot swap today because I have commitment issues, and I have the aluminum and the FR4 plates. If you want to catch a comprehensive sound test of all plates and PE foam configs, I'll leave a link to my guy Clackbait, who I know released a full breakdown video. Like I said, I haven't watched it yet. I'm assuming it's a banger because all of his videos are bangers, so do yourself a favor and subscribe while you're there. For pricing, most solder kits will run you $149. Hot swap will get you for $10 more, and for a $20 upcharge, you can get the premium E-white coating. Most of you will probably pay $159 plus shipping, which can get crazy. Expect between $40 and $50 because they're shipping direct from China. That shipping cost stings, for real, but for around $200 delivered, you're getting a lot. For switches today, we're using red jacket linears from K&C Keys, probably the hottest switch out right now. I bought these for personal. Housing is nylon, stem is long pole, palm, 2-stage spring with a 55-gram actuation. Beauty part here is you don't have to lube these. They are factory lubed, but like by hand. The batch I got is really consistent, and he didn't know they were for me either. I just ordered and I got what I got. For gaskets, I'm gonna go with socks instead of jackets because I want as much flex as I can get. The recommended build for this board is all of the foam plus the dampener, so we're gonna check that out, but we'll also take a look at a few more options. There's so many variables here. I'm just trying to get a feel for what does what. This new room is still pretty rough audio-wise. There's a lot of reflections in here, but I didn't want to apply a lot of processing to those sound tests. Not surprisingly, it's really marbly with the PE sheet, pretty sharp and clacky without. It's a little muted and stiff for me with everything in the lower. My favorite config is the aluminum plate, PE sheet, and the plate foam with nothing in the lower. It just sounds fuller to me. Spacebar is still a little thin, even with the PE sheet in there. Without the PE, it's really sharp and thin. It kind of makes me want to build a soldered version with the 7U spacebar layout just to see what I get audio-wise. Something important to note with this board, no configuration is really super flexy or bouncy. With everything in there, it's obviously really compressed, but even without the stuff in the bottom, you're not getting a ton of flex. If you're really into a flexy or bouncy experience, this may not be for you. That's about the only thing keeping the Mode 65 in the game against this board, is that there you can go top mount with a half plate and it's a great typing experience. Versus the Zoom 65, another entry level you may be looking at, this board feels better built overall, and I like the way it goes together better. It's also a cleaner, seamless aesthetic to me. You're not getting switches or caps here, so you have to figure that into the value equation for yourself, and you're also not getting a knob here. Versus something like the Baccaneco 65, the QK65 is a clear winner. One note on the red jacket switches and this board, those switches are super tight and these plates have tons of flex cuts. If you're gonna run these, and I highly suggest you do, they're great. You wanna insert each one into like a corner to shave down these little burrs so they go in easy elsewhere in the plate. Otherwise, it's a nightmare. I've been reviewing for a while now, so when I look at a market, I look at like this middle 80%, where a brand is simply copying another brand that's doing something successful. They're just putting their hand up and going, we have that too. And pretty soon, all those brands have it. There's nothing really exciting in that 80%. The top 10% are products that are really innovating and pushing the market forward. That lower 10% of that scale are people that are still putting up quality, but they're doing it at a price point that really disrupts the entire market. That's what I see here with the QK65. It's not a true cost $149 board after shipping, but it's arguably the best sub $200 kit out there. It's not something to grab if you already have a higher tier board, but it immediately becomes my recommendation for somebody wanting to get into the space, provided they're okay with the layout. If anything, spending time with this board has finally convinced me to pay mech market prices for a Mr. Suit. The idea is that they should be able to stock these pretty regularly, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton of demand for these when they go live in just a few days, but they assure me they have plenty of stock ready to go. In the meantime, if you somehow haven't already watched everything about this board, I will link videos in the description to additional coverage from Shubes, Keyboard, and Clackbait. I'll also post the most up-to-date sale info I have in a pinned comment as well. If you want to check out full reviews of the other 65s that I mentioned earlier in the video, you can do that right here. Coming up really fast, we've got some fun collab stuff and then some audio. Finally, that's it for today, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.